Okay, so in this lesson we're going to look at natural mating versus artificial mating. So the natural mating we're going to look at first. Before we look at what natural mating actually entails, we have to talk about a couple of mating terminology. So certain terms we use during mating. So the first thing is the word mating itself. It's basically the physical act whereby a male and a female copulate with the purpose of producing offspring. So again, mating basically just means is the physical act whereby the male will then deposit its sperm into the female body. So that's basically what copulation is, and mating is this physical means whereby the male and female do this so that they can produce offspring. So secondly is copulation. So again, the insertion of a male's penis specifically into a female's vagina so that the sperm can be deposited into the female's body. Then ejaculation. This is known as the release of semen, or if you want to prefer sperm, same thing, from the male's penis itself. And then pheromones. It is specific chemicals released by an animal to change the behavior or the physiology, so something about the body, of another animal of the same species. So usually we talked about in the previous lesson, pheromones are released not just by the female, but mostly by the female, so that she can attract a potential mate. So it's basically to change the behavior of a male then, so that he is interested in her for the mating purposes. So then lastly we have the Fleming reaction. So again, I think I did show you guys a picture in one of the previous lessons where the upper lip of an animal, or the picture there was of a bull, where the upper lip of that bull curls backward to allow these pheromones to actually reach inside the bull's nose. Inside the nose, they have a specific organ called the Jacobson's organ, and this organ allows the bull to actually take in the scent of these chemicals. So that organ is there to help the bull or any animal that has a Jacobson's organ to better determine, okay, what exactly am I smelling? Is it pheromones I'm smelling? Is it something stinky I'm smelling? And usually for mating purposes, this tells the bull, in this case, whether the female is an oestrus, whether she's receptive, whether he can actually mate with her. So this curling action of the lip helps him to determine whether he can mate with her or not. Okay, so then there are, for natural mating, 5 main stages. And the first thing is basically courtship. Here we at the bottom at the left we have a nice picture of how the bull is actually trying to get the attention of the cow. Sometimes the cow will do this to the bull, but in this case the bull is doing that to her. So it's basically a courtship ritual where they start to get to know one another. The second step then is the actual mounting, so meaning the bull will try and climb onto the backside of the cow. He is basically positioning himself in the correct position so that he can eventually insert his penis into her. So then thirdly is copulation. So again, the physical act whereby the male, the body parts of the male actually enters into the female. And then fourthly, ejaculation, whereby the sperm actually exits the body of the male and goes into the female. And then the fifth one is dismounting. So then basically the bull just climbs off the cow and he goes his merry way, the one way, and the cow goes her own way, and the act is done. Okay, so some factors that regulate mating behavior. The first thing usually is genetics. So usually your sexual activity differs from breed to breed. So if we look at cows, if it's a Brahman or a Angus and so on, you get different types of breeds of bulls, of cattle, and depending on what breed they are, some are sexually more active, some are less active. So your genetics plays a role in the type of breed, whether the animal will actually want to mate naturally more often or maybe less. Then secondly, another factor is environmental factors. So usually if the animal has good nutrition, it's healthy, and it's been eating enough, we've got enough nutrients, it will want to mate because there's nothing wrong with it, it'll be healthy. And then the other thing is usually in cool temperatures, most males will want to mate. And I say cool, not cold, because again, if the temperatures are too low, an animal's cold, they will most probably not want to mate because they're trying to increase their body temperatures and they're not thinking about mating. And if the temperature is too high, they're sweating and too hot, and they also are not thinking of mating. They're just thinking about getting water to drink. Thirdly, you've got your physiological factors. So this is what happens inside the body, or body factors. Usually those with high testosterone levels will also want to mate more often. So again, as we said, the testosterone is the male hormone that gives it its male characteristics, and also again has something to do with the libido of the bull, meaning if it wants to be sexually active. So usually those with high testosterone levels can also differ from breed to breed, and they will want to mate more often. Then also your health, again, if the animals are experiencing some kind of pain, they will definitely not want to mate because they're just thinking about the pain the whole time. Or if they've injured their leg or injured some part of their body, they don't feel well, and definitely they will not want to mate. So a healthy bull generally will be mating more. And then lastly, previous experience. So usually you've got young bulls that have never mounted a cow or never tried to mate, and they have no idea what they're doing. So usually those will not mate successfully, or maybe then will not want to mate as often as, say, a bull that has been successful in the past. Okay, so now we're going to look at artificial mating. There are three main ones. We're going to look at just the first one today, artificial insemination, also known as AI. So this basically is the process whereby sperm is placed into a female's uterus, but by a human. So I'm saying there in parentheses, in any artificial means, meaning it's not the bull doing the work, it's his sperm, but somebody else is putting the sperm into the cow. So in this case, a human. So there are some requirements for successful artificial insemination. The first thing is that healthy sperm and viable sperm must be used. So viable means the sperm are swimming around, they don't have any morphological issues, meaning they do have a head, a middle section, and a tail. They are able to swim, they have energy to do it, everything is right, there's no diseased semen or anything. So everything is healthy. So this is very, very important, just for the fact that, again, if the sperm is not healthy and it can't swim, it can't do its job. And secondly, use the correct insemination techniques. So in this case, we actually see a vet inseminating a cow. So we're going to go through the steps how a vet actually does this. But again, the correct insemination techniques has to be used. Otherwise, again, if something goes wrong, either the semen can be wasted. So again, this is money into the water for the farmer, or the cow can get hurt. So again, if a cow is hurt during this procedure, she can't be used for a while. I mean, she can't be inseminated, or even a bull can't service her. So she won't be able to have any calves, and that's basically the point for a farmer. He wants to have calves so he can sell them for money. And thirdly, the insemination must happen during the correct oestrus cycle phase. So again, this oestrus cycle has 4 phases, and again, the oestrus phase is basically when this should happen, so just before ovulation. And again, why? Because the sperm has to be there when the egg cell is going to be released from the follicle, the Graafian follicle. Okay, so there are some methods to collect semen. So the first way is through an artificial vagina. So usually, this is the first one, artificial vagina, so meaning the penis will go into on this side, and then there's this funnel that collects the semen, and it usually goes into this tube at the end here. So how it works, just quickly, is basically a bull is allowed to mount another cow or allowed to mount a very young heifer, so meaning she's not really sexually active yet, but the bull has to be stimulated in some way. He has to see visually another female standing there and so on. He wants to mount her. And as soon as he mounts her, the vet or the farmer or someone that knows how to use the artificial vagina must place this over the penis of the bull. So meaning the bull never copulates with that other cow, or basically this device is used to capture the sperm. Okay, so that's the first way of doing it. The second one they do is called the electrical stimulation or electrical stimulator. And this guy is quite interesting. So what happens is they put this probe literally into the anus of the bull, and then an electrical current goes through this guy. So it's kind of like a cow prodder, but instead of hurting the animal, it actually stimulates ejaculation from the bull. So this probe, yes, goes into the anus, and maybe it's a little bit uncomfortable for the bull, but as soon as the electrical current, a mild electrical current, by the way, goes through, then the nerves inside the penis are stimulated, and basically the bull then ejaculates its sperm into another funnel that is kept at the penis area. So usually that funnel is not as deep as this one, because the penis doesn't have to go in completely, but there will be a funnel and also a tube that will collect then the sperm. So again, the difference is here electrical stimulus is used. In this case, no electrical stimulus. The bull has to be made excited in a different way, and then the sperm is collected. Okay, so quickly, there are some requirements for semen collection. The first thing is that the semen must be collected by a vet or a registered semen collector. And this is based on the Livestock Improvement Act. So it is law that somebody that is qualified to do this procedure must do it. For obvious reasons. Again, you don't want the animal to be hurt. So mainly a qualified person must do it. Secondly, the handle of animals must be done calmly without causing stress to the animal, because again, a stressed animal will want to hurt itself or hurt the person who's trying to do the insemination. So calm is best. And thirdly, only use sterilized and dry equipment for the main reason you don't want the animal to get an infection. So everything must be sterilized and clean beforehand. Then also protect the ejaculate, meaning the semen or the sperm that has just come out of the bull. Protect it from direct sunlight and any contamination, because again, if it gets contaminated, you can't use it. So the procedure was for nothing. And also out of direct sunlight, because this will increase the temperature of the semen and the sperm, which will cause it to die, so that it's useless. Then also semen must be diluted, so meaning usually you put stuff with it, usually with nutrients and antibiotics. So again, the nutrients is there to feed the sperm to keep it alive, and the antibiotics is to ensure that if there was any bacteria in among the sperm, it kills the bacteria, which will cause the sperm to stay alive longer. And also it must be kept frozen, also to extend the storage life. So usually you take the semen and it can't be used, not necessarily, but usually it's not used immediately. So they must be stored until it can be taken to the cows where they need to be serviced. So it must be diluted with nutrients and antibiotics and also frozen to keep it alive. And then also semen must be evaluated by a vet. So meaning a vet must look at the semen underneath a microscope usually to determine what the color is, the density, so meaning how thick it is, and also the volume. And then lastly, the morphology, so meaning what does it look like. So here in the corner we have again some different shapes of sperm. I think we did do this in a previous lesson. So here you can see a little sperm, one with two tails. Again, where is this guy going to swim to? It won't be able to move anywhere. It will swim in circles. This one has two heads. So again, this can cause problems when fertilization happens, because you won't have a diploid organism, you'll have a triploid organism, and these two have probably issues with the form of the head. Maybe it won't be able to swim as well or penetrate the egg cell. And this guy has a very long midsection, so most probably it either has too much mitochondria or too little mitochondria, so it also have issues with swimming. Okay, then also concerning the color of the sperm, usually if it's a gray color, it tells the vet that this sperm or this ejaculate is infected, so it's not a good one to use. If the color is red, it means there's presence of blood and you also can't use it. If it is dark brown, then there's also presence of blood, but old blood, so the blood has been dried out a bit, but again it can't really be used because it's now contaminated with blood. So basically what the vet wants is an opaque color. Technically opaque is not really a color, but opaque means that you can actually see through the semen. So it's not really translucent or transparent, but something in between. So you can kind of see through the semen, but it doesn't, they talk about it should be opaque, milky, and sticky. So again, you want stickiness. It must be like this milky thickness, not the color necessarily, not white really in color, but it must be very, very thick. And the opaque color is kind of colorless, but it's something in between colorless and white. It's difficult to explain. But anyway, so you want opaque sperm basically. This means it's healthy and it's useful. So it can be used. It's viable. It will work. Okay, then artificial insemination technique. I'm just going to quickly go through the steps and then I will show you guys a picture. The picture will make a bit more sense. So firstly, insemination should occur as the cow shows signs of oestrus. So again, you want the cow to be in heat. Her body tells her body then shows that she is ready for mating. So again, it must be done in the early stages of oestrus so that ovulation doesn't happen yet. So by the time ovulation will happen at the end of oestrus, the oestrus phase, then the sperm will already be there, ready for fertilization of the egg cell when it is released during ovulation. And secondly, the procedure should be done in a sheltered area, so there shouldn't be any wind, dust, or rain, again to prevent contamination of the sperm and also contamination when the sperm is being placed into the cow. Then thirdly, frozen semen must be thawed first, meaning it was frozen, but now you want it to be kind of like room temperature. So it must be thawed in water of about 35 to 37 degrees, so body temperature. Because again, you want to put the sperm inside the cow while they are swimming and alive. Otherwise, if they're frozen, they can't do anything inside the cow. Then fourthly, special straws are used to house the semen, meaning these very, very long straws is where the semen are in. And then the straw with the sperm inside is then placed into a special type of, it kind of looks like it's called a pistolette. It kind of looks like a syringe, a very long syringe that is called a pistolette. So then the vet inserts one hand into the rectum of the cow and then smooths out the cervix from the top. Again, I will show this to you guys in the next slide. Then the other hand of the vet inserts the pistolette with the sperm and so on through the cervix of the cow until the uterine horns are reached. So then the semen themselves is released into both the uterine horns. So not just the one fallopian tube, but both, because again, the vet doesn't know exactly in which side from which ovary the egg cell was released. So just to make doubly sure that at least the fertilization will happen, some sperm is released in the one fallopian tube and some sperm released in the other one, so that there is a 50-50 chance that some of the sperm will actually fertilize the egg cell. Okay, so this picture kind of shows us what's happening. Okay, let me quickly show you guys to make sense of this. Here we have the rectum area, so this is the top part, and here we have the vulva, and then the vagina area, the cervix right over here, and here's your uterus, and then your fallopian tubes right here, or the uterine horns that I talk about with the two ovaries. So I just want to make it clear that usually the vet does not put in his naked arm in like this. Usually they've got gloves, blue gloves, to protect their skin. But this image kind of show you guys what's happening. So basically the arm of the vet goes in the top through the rectum. So again, the rectum and the reproductive organ of the cow is two different tubes, two different places. This is basically where the feces comes out, the rectum, but this is the area again that is the birth canal, and here's your uterus. So it looks in this picture as if the hand is touching or coming into the uterus, but it's not. So it's two different tubes, and this hand basically is just gently pushing down on the ends of the rectum to try and smooth out the uterus area here, the cervix and then the uterus. So the pistolette then is put into the uterus area, and then here inside the uterine horn, and from here the sperm is released, so that eventually it can migrate down and get to the ovaries. Okay, so that's basically what happens here. So the one arm goes up in the front, and the other hand guides the pistolette in here. So again, you want to put this arm in here to make sure that the pistolette is not poking the uterus or harming the animal in any way. This is to feel the hand in the rectum is there to feel that the pistolette slides in easily and is directed into the uterine horns. Okay, so then lastly, some advantages and disadvantages of artificial insemination. Firstly, the advantage is it can prevent the transfer of any sexual transmitted diseases. So again, sperm has been hopefully sampled from a healthy bull, and the sperm themselves are fine. So that this method itself can actually prevent any sexual transmitted diseases because the bull is not physically inserting his penis into the cow, and usually it's in that area, the penis area, where the bacteria, the viruses and so on are located. So that kind of tries to eliminate it. Secondly, farmer doesn't have to own a bull actually to obtain sperm. So he can obtain sperm from somebody else's bull, a breeding bull and so on, and then he gets the sperm and then inseminates his cows. So he doesn't have to own his own bull. Thirdly, this method allows one bull to service over 1,000 cows a year, because again, every day a bull can actually donate a few thousand sperms. So they can easily, without having to actually do the mating ritual, the sperm of one bull can be used for a lot of cows. Then also rapid genetic improvement of a herd, so it's a quick way of breeding. So then the herd can quickly be improved genetically. Then lastly, increases the calving percentage. So again, it's a quick way of not really mating, but a quick way of inseminating a cow and spreading sperm. So again, more calves can be produced and quicker as well. Then some disadvantages. So usually infected semen can happen. So the infected semen can quickly spread sexual diseases. If there was not any care taken to make sure the bull was not diseased and a sample of sperm is taken from it, then unfortunately that contaminated semen can be used and spread to other cows. So unfortunately, if the semen was not, again, healthy in the first place, infections can be spread. Then secondly, inexperienced inseminator can waste money, meaning if some of the sperm is wasted and the technique was not right. And also a bad technique can also harm the cow itself. Then also thirdly, good quality sperm of breeding bulls are expensive. So unfortunately this method is not very cheap. Then also heat detection, meaning when the cow goes into heat, must be implemented. Otherwise, again, you're inseminating the cow at the wrong time of the month, and then it's just a waste of time. And lastly, record keeping is also essential to avoid inbreeding. So meaning there must be records must be kept to see what bull's sperm was actually used to inseminate which cow. Otherwise, you keep on using the same bull, and the progeny of this cow is maybe again inseminated with the same bull. So it means that it's easy if you don't keep records that the father of a specific cow can be used again to inseminate her. So record keeping is very, very important. And that's about it. Okay, that's it for the lesson.